This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
It's Parker Fox here in for Barreiro. Time for the Top 5 at 5. Brett, what do we have going on here today?
Well, we've got a lot going on. I do have to start with this. I don't know if you're familiar with how this show typically goes when I'm in this chair.
Kind of. You know, as a basketball player, basketball practice was about 3 o'clock, so I missed a lot of Barreiro's content. But
I am contractually obligated to do this.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
And he's not going to like it. We have to start with the Wild. They lost their first game of the New York Swing in overtime to the Devils. I'd say solid effort. You could tell it was a physical game, but they get the point. But the problem is, if you look at the NHL standings, the Blues are breathing down their neck. Now, as far as making the playoffs, they should be fine. They've got a 6-point cushion between them and the Flames, so that's great. And with only a handful of games to play, actually the Flames have 2 games in hand. So that's a problem.
Oof.
So, but the problem is, if it stays as it is, the Wild would play, I believe, Vegas. Okay. If the Blues hop them, the Wild would play Winnipeg, who are much better and much hotter than Vegas. So that would be truly a disaster for the Wild. They're going to be an underdog no matter who they play.
Yeah.
It all depends on whether Kaprizov has enough runway and if Ek has enough runway to come back. We know they're as close as ever. They're probably going to play, hopefully, when they get back home. But that's still a couple games away. That's Sunday is when they would get back home against the Stars. They've got the Rangers tomorrow. That's at 6, which will be right here on the Fan. So, yeah, the Wild hanging around, but they need to kick it into gear if they want to play Vegas and not Winnipeg.
Well, at least the right effort last night, scoring 2 in the third period. You know, you can kind of fold over, but they were able to find 2 and eventually lose in a shootout. Is that correct?
In overtime.
In overtime, okay.
Yep.
In overtime,
so they still get the point, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does matter in the grand scheme.
I guess.
And you could tell, too, that especially when it's an Eastern versus a Western Conference team, once they get to the extra point, I think the Devils ragged the puck for like 10 seconds behind the net just to get it to overtime. So
are the Wild still doing that? They pull the goalie in overtime thing, or is that just like a little thing beginning of the season?
We haven't seen that in a while.
Okay.
So
I love the strategy of it. I get it, but it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I think I was there first time they unveiled that.
Wow.
And I was like,
what's going on?
I was dangerous. I was looking at every ref. I was like, does someone have their hands up? Like, they've made a mistake. There's no penalty here. Yeah, that was elite. The Wolves, they're in Denver tonight. They get the Nuggets a late game. So, yeah, get your caffeine ready. 9 o'clock tip, 8:45 pregame right here on the Fan. There's a team where they're good. The Nuggets are good, but the Wolves have had their number. Did Jim Pete say 3-0 this year against the Nuggets?
I think so, yeah. 3-0 against the Nuggets. Nuggets got a 3.5-point spread in this one. Wolves missing Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo due to suspension from a little scuffle fight, maybe. He was a hockey guy, probably wouldn't call it a fight, but I'll call it an NBA fight against the Detroit Pistons.
It was physical, for sure.
It was physical. It was enough to serve a suspension, but that one's on TNT, late game tonight, 9 p.m., so stay up for that one.
You ever hear the call of the brawl?
I don't think I have, no.
This one's gotten testy. It's got physical. Here's Holland to drive. Baseline, runs it up over Nas and hits it. He comes up swinging his arms, wondering where the foul was. 39-29, Pistons back up by 10. Nas fakes the handoff, keeps it himself, drives, he got fouled. Holland picks it up. And now Nas and Holland going at it. Dante steps in, and now both teams have to be separated here. Dante takes Holland right out of play. It's a pile-up under the basket. It's gotten more than heated, and they are still going at it. The whistle continues to blow. There are bodies piled up into the first few rows of the seats as tempers have flared here early in the second quarter. They are still going at it along the baseline there.
I mean, it was electric for sure.
It was long, too. Like, it kept going. Like, more guys kept getting added to the scuffle. Coaches came in. 2 coaches got ejected. It was, you don't see that a lot in the basketball world. You see it a lot. You know, you get those hockey scuffles in front of the net all the time. But this was a rare basketball one.
The Twins, they lose to the White Sox yesterday, 9-0. Willie Castro made an appearance pitching. That's how bad it got. The Twins are 0-4. I'll just say this. I'm a firm believer when it comes to baseball. Don't look at the standings until the All-Star break because
100%.
you just can't.
100%.
And you can't get, like, for instance, my Braves. I think they're 0-5.
Wow.
We can't look at the standings until the All-Star game break because that to me is where the rubber meets the road. But at the same time, this Twins team, they have not looked good.
No.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah, not only have they not looked good, but just in all facets. You got your top 3 starting off in the batting order, and they're 0-24 to start the year, as we've seen from Meat Sauce's Twitter. He's been going at him.
He's probably got the counter going.
And then the pitching's been bad too. We saw Chris Paddock last night give up 9, and then the night before we saw Bailey Over give up a bunch as well. So they need to figure out what direction they're going in. And you're in Chicago. You're facing a White Sox team that's supposed to be historically bad. So we'll see if the Twins can turn it around tonight.
I've got a handful of NFL rule changes to wrap this up. We'll go here. The tush-push ban gaining steam, but not done yet. They're delaying it. Apparently, it's earned the support of 16 teams. They need 24 to approve a change. Seifert had an interesting tweet about this not too long ago, that basically another option could be an emerging solution, he says, is the reinstatement of the pre-2005 rule that bans all pushing of ball carriers, not just at the line of scrimmage. So it could be a way around that. Other things I wanted to get your split-second reaction to. The kickoff touchback.
Yeah.
It's now at the 35.
I love it. I love it. And I think KOC kind of talked about it when in his press conference about how he didn't say whether he liked it or not, but it seemed like he liked the gamesmanship of, hey, now there's something where you can actually kind of play it out. You can have a little gamesmanship in that way. And we got a pretty good kicker back there doing it. So I'm looking forward to it.
The overtime rules now will have both teams be guaranteed a possession, not just in the playoffs, but now in the regular season as well. I love this rule. I'm okay with going college overtime.
You like the college?
As a viewer.
Without the timeouts.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to what we were talking about, the tush push. Competitively, I think what they have now is probably better. Mm-hmm. Entertainment-wise, give me college football overtime any day.
All day. That's one of the most fun things in sports. It's good because you don't want, a team that's hot. They got momentum. They just scored 2 touchdowns to tie it up. Now they get the ball. Boom. Touchdown. Game over. You want the other team to be able to compete.
And here's the last one. The NFL is preparing to replace the regular season chain crew, the Chang Gang, with a camera-based measurement system to measure first downs. Sony announced today, that the brand's Hawkeye technology, not related to Chris Hockey, I don't think, will be used as the primary method for measuring the line to gain. Essentially, we're seeing like semi-automated, like you would see in soccer.
Yeah.
You would see the semi-automated with all the animation, just breaking it down almost instantaneously. That's what we're going to get. 6 8K cameras will track the ball. These cameras will be operated in all NFL stadiums as well as international venues for the 2025 season.
What do they do when the technology fails?
Hope the guys are waiting in the wings to figure it out.
That'll be pretty sweet, though. And I think, like you said, as us being EPL guys, soccer guys, we've seen the VAR, we've seen the whole camera bit. I'm excited for it. Obviously, the game's got to change, right? And this is a great way to do it.
So there you go. Andy Greder around the corner here.
Andy Greder around the corner. It's been Parker Fox on The Fan.
It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, You don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
This is Parker Fox in for Barreiro on The Fan. We've had an awesome show so far. We have our next guest in studio, Andy Greder of the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's interesting to sit on the other side of the desk from you and get questions from you as opposed to the other way around that we've done for a number of years now.
Oh, we have, and it's been great. It's crazy that it's already to an end. I feel like, people make the jokes about me being in college for 8 years and all this, but it feels like it's flown by, especially my time at the U has really flown by. So it's crazy that it's all kind of come to an end. But.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was always a joy to watch you play, man, and watch you kind of bring the energy and the effort and the hustle and the rebound and the athleticism. It was always cool to see you kind of interact on the court and kind of have great answers off the court as well.
Well, it's been a joy too to get to know you. Obviously, we have the Tottenham connection, which we'll get to, but we have the Gopher connection. And me being from Minnesota, me being a homer, being a Gopher guy, I want to chat a little Gopher football. Obviously, something you've kind of kept your eye on here closely. A lot of changes happening in that room. But first, I kind of want to start with the quarterback. We lose Max Brosmer, who's honestly getting really good looks right now in terms of NFL stuff. Who knows if he'll be drafted, or maybe you have some information on that you'd like to share. But then, who's next up in the quarterback position for the Golden Gopher football team? Yeah,
it was probably the best they've had at that position in a long time.
Oh, he was phenomenal.
I think it's been encouraging to see somebody like that does it the right way, get the recognition that he has. You see him kind of rise up on some mock drafts towards the end of day 3. I sat down with him before they played in the Duke's Mayo Bowl and chatted with him about kind of his processing and his ability to kind of run an offense. And he got up there on the whiteboard and drew up all this different look
He's
that
a wizard.
they have. And he was just pointing out different things on the board of like, this was a touchdown to Elijah in this game. This was a touchdown to Daniel in that game. I hit this as the 4th option to Darius Taylor in the UCLA game, and just kind of went through all of it. And it was almost kind of a perfect memory of what happened. So I think that's what you can see that other NFL teams see in him, if that makes sense. And obviously they're losing that now, and it's kind of a bit of a transition. Drake Lindsay is the 4-star redshirt freshman quarterback who's kind of waiting in the wings and kind of had his time underneath Max and learned from him. And I think this is now really his time to take over. PJ Fleck is very guarded and and kind of coach speak about it, and always talks about there being a competition. And I think there is to a certain degree with Zach Pyron, the transfer that came in from Georgia Tech. But I think Drake Lindsay, just given his athleticism, given his arm, given the fact that he's been in the system, I think he's going to be the kind of clear-cut number 1.
Yeah, we've seen guys kind of praise Max Brosmer, especially using social media, about just his mind for the game and his leadership. Something that I saw just being around kind of the facility and seeing a guy like Max. It was kind of the same leadership that I saw in Tanner Morgan when he was around. Guys that you want to rally for. What's been the biggest thing? Obviously, we've heard about Drake's arm talent. We've heard about his athleticism, probably maybe a little bit above Brosmer. What is his biggest growth that you think needs to happen for him to be just a good leader and a quarterback for the Gophers?
Well, I think it's just a matter of what he's able to process on the field, right? Because obviously every offense is going to be different based on who the quarterback is and how much can he kind of process and gather at the line of scrimmage. Because for that story that I did, it was they would come to the line of scrimmage with, 2 different plays and a check. Sometimes sometimes 3 different plays that they would call, and it was all kind of in his hands as to what they would run. So that's just kind of some of the elite level that Max Brosmer was at, and Drake Lindsey will need to show that he can kind of handle those things, or they'll have to adjust accordingly. I think with the fact that this is going to be his first real time playing major college football, the running game is going to be something that they're going to have to really rely on, and it's going to have to be a lot better than it was last year. Darius Taylor is obviously the head of that, and if they're able to do that, that takes pressure off the quarterback.
We almost saw last year PJ not going away from the running game. Obviously, it's a staple for PJ. It's a staple in the Big Ten, but we saw just so many checkdowns to Darius Taylor. Obviously, that's part of Max Brosmer's progression. It's probably something that they dial up. I asked PJ about it last year, and he said it's really just, Max is kind of going through his progressions, 1, 2, 3, and boom, there's Darius Taylor. Is that something you think we're going to see more of, or do you think they're going to really try to establish that running game? And then obviously we have Darius Taylor, but who's next behind him? It's I've talked to Mo Ibrahim about the running back group. They always say it's running back by committee. I think that's their statement. I'm sure Darius would say the same, but who else is kind of in that room that we should keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think there'll probably be a fair amount of the checkdowns. Again, I just feel like they know that Darius can do that. I think he's a quality pass catcher. We saw that. I think he had 50 or 60 catches last year. So it's certainly something that's part of his repertoire, and they probably want to keep that as part of it. But establishing the running game, fundamentally is also what they're going to want to do. Greg Harbaugh, the offensive coordinator, said that to start off spring ball. I think Darius will get the lion's share of the carries. AJ Turner, transfer from Marshall. I think he was second in the country last year at yards per carry.
Wow.
Over, I think, around 8 per carry. So this guy
we'd like to hear that.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a change of pace back, a little bit of a burner, guy you want to get out open in space and have explosive plays. Cam Davis, kind of a bruising, bigger running back from Washington, is kind of maybe your short yardage back, a guy who can kind of get tough yards. Darius obviously can do that too, but another change of pace. Fame Ijiboy, who's a redshirt freshman. I think he's probably the number one guy that's still in the room, that is part of the transfers that they brought in. So I think they always want to have a number of guys because they know, how many hits and dings and bumps that they get throughout the course of a season. So they want to have some depth there.
Yeah, and what an important position, especially with just how Gopher football has, historically been establishing that running game and then open it up to the passing game. When you talk about that running game, you got to talk about the offensive line. My guy, Ariante Ursary, hopefully going to be a first round, if not second round pick. What's the kind of the new update on him? Have you seen much about his kind of stock rising, lowering? What's the deal with Ariante?
Yeah, so it was interesting at their pro day. He did everything testing wise at the combine. So he just kind of did some position drills, but didn't do anything else, just kind of relying on the numbers that he showed at the combine. And I think it was almost a 5 flat 40 for a guy who's 6'6", 340 pounds.
That's moving.
Yeah, very impressive. So he was kind of more of a spectator, did some position drills at the pro day. The most interesting thing was what came right after that. He had his kind of media scrum, and I wanted to kind of ask him a couple of questions on the side. And they're like, no, he can't. He's got to sit down with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, wow.
So then the Kansas City Chiefs were right there, which is funny enough, his hometown team.
Yeah.
He grew up a Chiefs fan.
Wow.
So they kind of sat on the side of the indoor practice facility and had a little chat. They, I think, have...
Yeah, do we know what pick they have?
They have 31, I think.
Okay.
Because they obviously lost the Super Bowl. So 31. And then I think they have 2 in the 60s as well.
Oh,
so
great.
I think 31 might be a little early for him. But maybe in the 60s if they can get him there, that would be a dream come true for him.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of projected in that kind of late first, second round category.
Yeah.
The Gophers have had great luck, great success, getting players drafted in the first or second round. I think it's 4 or 5 straight years in a row now, and Ariante will continue that.
Yeah, no one deserves it more than him. Just a great guy. Every time I see him around, he's just always lively, always got great energy. I'm sure he's the same interacting with you guys. Who else is on the board? Any other Gophers from last year that NFL fans need to keep their eye out in terms of maybe getting drafted, maybe getting picked up after the draft? What's that looking like?
Yeah, so they had, I think 6 guys go to the NFL Scouting Combine, which is a program record.
Wow.
So, guys like Cody Lindenberg, Justin Wally, Daniel Jackson, Max Brosmer, Danny Strigo. Those are some of the guys that I think will probably be in that mix, day 2, day 3. They've got a number of guys that'll probably be undrafted free agents as well and kind of get shots with teams. And we've seen other Gophers get that opportunity and stick around.
Yeah, for sure. I think names like Ethan Robinson, Jack Henderson,
for sure.
2 guys that I know well who are kind of hoping to kind of make that impact. I think it's such a fun time, especially for me. You interact with these guys all the time, and I'm sure it's the same with you. You see them, in media sessions, you see them in the hallway, and it's like, I could see you, playing games Sunday right around the corner. One of those guys, especially Beanie Bishop, who actually transferred out, went to West Virginia, now with the Steelers, a guy that I actually got along with really well, talked to him all the time and talked to him throughout the year. And he just really enjoyed his experience out there, in Pittsburgh, and, not the greatest year, but he'll be back and they'll be back. We talked a lot of Gopher football. Everybody knows I'm the Gopher basketball guy. There's a lot of changes around the building. Have you had time to meet with Nico? Have you had time to sit down with him? Kind of what have you picked his brain about, and what are you excited about going forward with Nico at the helm?
Yeah, so he had his introductory press conference a week ago today, and then on Wednesday we had opportunities to do one-on-one. So it was the 4 TV stations and the 2 newspapers, and I drew the short straw and got Nico 6 out of 6. So I was like, okay, what's Nico going to be like after talking for 50 straight minutes?
Marcus Fuller talked his ear off, huh?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Marcus asked all the good questions and left me with everything else. No, I'm kidding. I was wondering, kind of how tired he would be just because of the whirlwind of everything, from losing a chance to go to the Sweet 16 on Sunday night, to signing the contract on Monday, to his press conference, to the whirlwind, to dealing with roster building and transfer portal and everything. And the 10 minutes that I got with him, he was as thoughtful and engaging and energetic as you would expect with the first questions of the day. So I was really kind of encouraged that he was still able to bring it and kind of show me the different things about what he wants to do. So it was a lot of the typical things, right? I wanted some of the background about him growing up in Roseville and kind of being a Gopher basketball fan. And his dad told me at the press conference actually that he probably wouldn't be in this spot if his dad would have allowed him to play hockey growing up.
Wow.
He was Brett Blakemore. I think he's getting giddy inside there.
Over there.
Sounds like a good guy.
Yeah. So he was playing elite level hockey in middle school, and his dad was like, "Nah, I don't know if we can do this. The time, the money. You got 2 brothers. I don't know if we have the resources or want to commit to that." And that kind of steered him into basketball. And obviously, he's gone on a basketball track and is now the head coach of the Gophers men's basketball team. So it's funny how things work out. And he told me, he probably wouldn't be here if that didn't happen to him. So it was kind of some personal things like that, some roster building things. If you talk to Isaac Osama, how are you going to handle the transfer portal, those kinds of things, or other things that I asked him about as well.
Well, an aside, I think I was kind of similar. I don't know if you believe this or not, Brett, but I was always, kind of loving hockey at a young age. I remember we would create a penalty box in our living room or something like that, and I would always get in the penalty box for fighting. And then my dad always had this saying, he'd say, "Hockey bad, basketball good." My dad's 6'8", so I was going to be tall too. So it all made sense. But
would you have ever gone in the net?
That's a great question. I think UMass had like a 6'7" goalie. I think I heard on the stream. I don't know. I don't know if I'm made for sitting there and taking 100-mile-an-hour slap shots to the face. So that's
hard on the joints. You'd have to reach, but
I'd have
hard
to
on
reach,
the joints.
Especially after the knee injuries. I would especially not like bending over like that all the time. But no, Nico's a Minnesota guy. We're super excited about Nico. You mentioned Isaac Osama. Him and Grayson Grove were the 2 Gophers that officially announced that they're coming back. Another name is Tyler Cochran, which hasn't really made his decision yet. Obviously me being a part of the program, you try to talk to these guys as much as possible, but you also want to give them their space and let them kind of go through the process themselves. Is there any other Gopher names that you have seen that are, obviously you got to fill a roster. You got to have 13, 14 more guys. Is there any names kind of on the horizon that Gopher fans should look out for and be excited about?
Yeah. So there's Jalen Croker Johnson, who's a big on Colorado State.
I think 6'8".
Yeah, 6'8". He just committed to Minnesota, so he's going to be coming.
Really?
Yeah,
awesome,
so that happened today. So he averaged, I think, 9 and 5 this last year. Had a really good game. I think it was in the Memphis to upset Memphis Tigers and Penny Hardaway in that first round game. So he's got 2 years of eligibility left. So that's a big that they're going to have right away. So obviously, as you know, they've got, just massive rebuild that they've got on their hands. I think with him, they've got 9 open spots now. So the heavy lifting still has to continue.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think there'll be a couple Minnesota guys' names thrown in. I know Trey Holloman entered the portal.
Right.
Obviously, he's a Minnesota guy. Don't know if he would think about coming home. I talk to him every once in a while, so I'll definitely kind of push him that way. But we'll see. Joshua Joseph in the portal again, Braden Carrington in the portal again, and then big news just before I came on the air today, Buzz Williams takes the head job at Maryland, which probably creates a decision for Pharrell Payne as well. I think it's it's interesting to see, when you go other places and it works out, or maybe it doesn't work out, but you still kind of end up in that portal, even if it did work out well for you. That's just kind of the age that we have now. Yeah. Talking about Big Ten coaches, we've seen a couple of changes. What do you kind of know about some of these new coaches in the Big Ten? We see McCollum at Iowa, Buzz Williams at Maryland, Indiana hired DeVries. Anybody else I'm missing?
Those are the main ones that come on top of my head, for sure. Yeah, I think Buzz Williams was certainly interesting, right? Because, he had Texas A&M, which I think has some pretty good resources, and we saw what Kevin Willard had to say about Maryland's resources this last week. So I thought that was interesting that Buzz Williams would take a job without a sitting AD. But I think it might show what maybe is going on behind the scenes at Texas A&M, that he wanted something else. I imagine SEC football is difficult to compete against, and you might not get the rev share that he was looking for there. But I think when you look at Ben McCollum and what he did at Drake and what he did at Northwest Missouri State over the course of his career, and how he turned Drake around to a 30-game winner and then upset in the NCAA tournament. He's able to stay home. He's from Iowa City. Obviously, that's a rival of the Gophers, but I think that looks to be a pretty good hire. Darren DeVries, who's also had success in Iowa, is now at Indiana. I think that was an interesting one after being 1 year at West Virginia, but he also has kind of a track record of success.
Yeah, and McCollum's a guy that I actually got the pleasure of playing against multiple times at the Division II level. Actually ended my Division II career in our home building in the Sweet 16 against Northwest Missouri State. 52 fouls called in that game. We had our whole starting lineup fouled out, so we were playing bench guys that hadn't really even seen the court in a Sweet 16 game. So I was a little nervous for them, but
not that you remember it or anything.
Not that I remember it. Not that I remember counting. Not that I remember Trevor Hudgens going tween, hit three to send it to overtime, and just shook my head up. But no, they had great teams. McCollum's been a great coach. He'll have a lot of success there at Iowa. It seems like they don't have the craziest NIL support, but I think they're moving in the right direction when it comes to that. We talk NIL, something that's obviously been huge on the minds of Gopher, football, basketball, even kind of trickling into the hockey aspect now when you talk about guys that, can go to different places and if NIL is really a factor about kind of changing their lives. What information do you have moving forward? I know the Gopher basketball program, it's pretty out in the open about how we struggled to kind of match numbers NIL wise. And, I'll be the first to even come on here and say that was the fact. Like, there was guys that left because strictly money, and guys that wanted to be there, but, they could change their family's finances, stuff like this. So what information do you have kind of moving forward when it comes to the NIL, and how can Gopher fans help Nico kind of moving forward and making this thing, competitive for us?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question when you look at success, right? Because you talk about guys like Pharrell Payne and Elijah Hawkins and the money that they got from the Texas schools to go there and kind of change the course of their families' lives, and you don't begrudge them for taking that opportunity, but it did hurt your guys' roster last year. There's just no doubt about that. It's at Minnesota, it's been lagging and it needs to improve. And that's the first question that I had for Nico Medved in his press conference. And he feels like there's opportunities to improve that. And he feels like he can rally people to the cause and improve that number when it comes to NIL. I think the finances are changing, as you know, right? It's not only NIL, but it's also revenue sharing. And it sounds like the Gophers are going to be committing more resources to revenue share to kind of deepen that that pot of money for players. And if you're able to do that on top of NIL, then you kind of lessen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. So I think with a commitment from the university to add more revenue sharing, you can kind of go out into the portal and grab more players with more money. I saw some reports today of some basketball players in the portal fetching $2-3 million. It's wild to see. We saw that a little bit last year with Grant Osborne at Washington, who you played against. I think he was a $2 million player at the time. Obviously, there's a lot of numbers flown around for different things, but that's becoming more of the norm than the exception.
Yeah, we were talking about it today in the locker room, and we mentioned Trey Holloman, and we said he's probably at this rate a $1.5-2 million guy, just with what he's done at Michigan State, kind of being their leader. And the year he shot the ball really well from three. That was kind of his knock, is he wasn't a great 3-point shooter, but he shot it really well this year. So I don't know. I think it's getting to be a kind of a dangerous game with the numbers that are thrown out there, and I missed the bit. I was a little too old, Andy. I was a little too old for that.
Parker, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want to go into this, but obviously with the change in coaches, obviously Ben was a guy who gave you a great opportunity in Minnesota. What was that like when he's let go, and how does that were you guys able to react to that and cope with that, given the fact that it happened right after your season ended?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard for me just being the only guy that was on the roster for all 4 years. Something that I kind of kept pride in. Went through a couple injuries this year and had a couple opportunities where, maybe wanted to sit out a game and a couple, shots in the knee and all that kind of stuff. But it was important for me to play in every single game. So, me and our doctors worked really well on timing things out and making sure that when game days come around, I was available. That was really more of a pride thing for me, but also for Ben. Just, I was out for 2 years and I sat on the sideline and watched and I told myself that any opportunity I get to play, I'm gonna do. And, I told Ben that, and that's kind of a promise I made him. But no, when it comes to, the process of how it went, we all understand it's a business. I think even more and more now with, the transparency of numbers, talking with coaches, like it would have never been a thing for me to go talk to a coach about that. And now it's just, completely out in the open, transparent. And, how it went down wasn't, the best thing in the world. Getting a text at 1:30 in the morning saying we're firing your head coach when we all kind of were hoping we didn't get invited to the Crown or maybe playing the NIT or something, along those lines. So not really having closure is always weird in life. But I think, with a team that spent 8 months together, you spend it every single day with these guys, to not really have a final meeting and say goodbye is weird, especially when it's kind of how I'm wrapping up my career, as a basketball player, not being able to kind of find solace in that, goodbye is a little weird. And, as a lot of things didn't go Ben's way, whether that's, injuries with me and Isaiah, tearing the ACLs, whether that's, NIL, whatever that, stems from. A lot of things didn't go his way. And it's his job to figure out how to make it go his way. But at the end of the day, it's a business and I understand that side of it. And, I think I've kind of come to terms with my career and, the coaching staff that I had. And now it's just really being about excited for Nico. And, I mentioned, and people know me, I'm a Gopher fan. And I want to see this Gopher program go to places that it's been, like in the late 90s and all that stuff. So I think it's tough, and my career didn't end the exact way I wanted it to. But now it's about supporting Nico and whatever role that looks like for me moving forward, and kind of being an advocate for the program. And I've met Nico. I know the guy. He's a great guy. He's a family guy. He speaks about culture, about being togetherness, and that's something that I stand for as well. So I'm really excited about Nico and, him moving forward and this Gopher program in general. So, yeah. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, we could see how much you were gutted out last year, right? With the different injuries and kind of having to kind of make it work at the time and kind of for the pride on the front of the shirt. We could just see that in you and in Dawson. I mean, what could you see in Dawson and the fact of what he was able to do, kind of being the type of player he was, the leader, the kind of warrior that Ben Johnson talked about him being?
He's the best, man. That dude will be in my wedding. That dude will be a guy that I call, every day for the next, whatever many years. People don't realize the sacrifice that he took to, wear a Gopher jersey. And I think, in this day and age, it's rare. So, I applaud him for that all the time. He's a guy that, forget about basketball. He's a guy that I can go to with, problems and vice versa. And he's a tremendous basketball player. Yeah. And he's a guy that was fighting injuries all year as well. A lot of people don't see what happens, behind the scenes and how serious his injury was in the Nebraska game. And there's a reason why he's not working out right now and all this kind of stuff. So, he's a guy that, toughed it out for Minnesota. And he's going to have a bright future. I hope everything goes great and he gets his name selected in that league and plays in that league for a long time because he deserves it. He's a mismatch nightmare at 6'11", can shoot the ball, can do things inside. So, it's a great player, but he's my guy, and I'm hoping for the best for him and his career. But we'll play a lot of golf this summer and do all those fun things. Speaking of other sports, I got to hit on the Loons too, because the Loons haven't lost a game, I don't think, since February 22nd. They've drew a couple along the way, but they've had a really successful year this year. You've been covering them. What have you seen from this Loons team that gets you excited in the MLS? Yeah, I think they've got a good combination of an offense that's been able to score. Kelvin Yeboah, who's a 24-year-old striker from Italy. He's got 4 goals. Wow.
Taniolo Ashei, a 24-year-old Canadian. He's also got 4 goals. Those guys are kind of in the top 5 in the league in goal scoring.
Great.
That's something that the Minnesota United has not had very much of. They've struggled with having forwards that can score. So they've been starting both of those guys up top, and it's really been working for them to kind of have kind of a potent offense. They're not a possession-based team. They want to sit back, sit compact, and strike on the counterattack. And with those 2 athletic forwards, they're able to get it done. Defensively, they've been pretty good for the most part. They had a couple of shaky moments in a couple of games, but they went to the Western Conference semifinals on the back of a really strong defense. And for the most part, you're able to see those kind of core principles stand out. So if you got it on both sides of the ball, you can go places. I think they're 4th or so in the Western Conference, so in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
And they played in a monsoon on Saturday night, but
2-0 win, 2-0 win. Yeah.
But most of the time it's a packed Allianz Field. It's a good environment.
Yeah, it's a great environment. We actually got to go out as a team a couple of years ago, and me being a soccer fan, I really enjoyed it. But even my teammates that didn't really watch soccer or never played soccer just loved the kind of atmosphere that's brought at Allianz Field. And another one coming up here, I think on the 6th, April 6th, we got New York. What kind of difficulties do New York bring? And got a prediction for that one?
Yeah, they play at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field.
Great. Okay. Yeah.
So it's like a little bit of a bandbox feeling.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a smaller field, a little bit kind of tighter spaces. They've typically been a pretty good team, so it'll be a challenge for them to go on the road and find a way to win. And then they're on the road again at Toronto the following week, and then back in St. Paul.
Great. Yeah, those are such fun games. I think I'm going to have to definitely get to one of those once I get back from Europe. Just watching soccer is also just so fun. Talking about soccer, or I should say football, English Premier League, our guys, Tottenham Hotspur. Brett's been itching his fingers back there to talk about Tottenham. We got a big one coming up Thursday. We got Chelsea, I think, at Chelsea. Is that correct, Brett?
It's at the Bridge. So, I just wanted to say that because I've had with both of you the did we just become best friends, stepbrothers moment.
Totally.
When we found out that we are all fans of the same Premier League team, Tottenham Hotspur, because I remember Max brought you in, Parker.
Yeah.
And I was wearing, I think, a James Madison kit. And you looked through the glass and it was literally like a Spider-Man meme, point. You're like, are you?
I was like, no way.
Are you? I am too. So yeah, and I don't think a lot of people know that about you, that you're a big soccer guy. You tweeted out a time or two, but you got into it by a current NBA player. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you willing to say that?
Yeah, I am. I've always been a soccer guy. I played it all the way up until high school. Cut it short because I wanted to play football instead. Big mistake. Should have stayed with soccer. I broke my hand in football, the whole 9 yards. But love soccer, always have. And then kind of started to watch it a little bit more. I was always kind of a Real Madrid, Barcelona kind of guy. And then I was like, I really want to support a team. And, my best friend, Jamison Battle, who's now a current, player for the Toronto Raptors, was a huge Tottenham guy. So he's like, would make me watch Tottenham games with them. And I was like, okay, I like this guy, Richarlison. Okay, I like this guy, Mickey Van de Ven. I'm starting to like some of these guys. And then it just kind of blossomed 2 seasons ago. Watched every game, and it's kind of been that same way ever since. I never thought I'd be getting up at 7:45 to watch 8 a.m. Soccer games, or going to Palmer's Bar and, drinking Guinnesses at 10 a.m. or whatever it may be. But I've really enjoyed it. And it's hard to follow, man. I know you guys are more up to date on that kind of stuff than I am, but
I love it.
It's there's so many moving parts with the international stuff and the loaning and all that kind of stuff. But I'm getting better and better at it.
Well, for me, it's Abbott's fault, because I work every Saturday morning with Fan Outdoors and In the Zone, and the only thing on consistently every Saturday morning is English football. So, and Spurs ended up being my team, and Andy, you too. I don't know what your Spurs origin story is, but it's just wild that I had the same exact experience with the both of you. Are you? We are. Oh, okay, this is the best. Yeah, what was your kind of story with that?
You can really commiserate with them.
No.
Right?
Well,
it's the equivalent of the Minnesota Vikings in the English Premier League, where you're slightly above average, where you kind of tease to being good, but you never find a way to win a trophy, never find a way to win a Super Bowl. My brother moved to the UK about 10, 12 years ago, and he's a very introverted scientist, and I was bumming that he was going there, and I was going to lose a connection with him. And he was dating a girl at the time who's from North London, and he was like, well, I'm going to support Tottenham. So I was like, okay, great. This will be a way to kind of connect and text with my brother to get him to open up. Because if I ask him how his day's going, he's probably not going to answer me. But if I talk to him about Tottenham, that's an inroad for us. And that kind of was the genesis of me becoming a Spurs fan and dealing with so much pain and anguish over the years.
Yep, that's true. One more thing before we break. Ange in, Ange out. Your thoughts I'm Anjin.
I'm Anjin, man. I know a lot of people are probably listening right now. What does Anjin mean? But I'm just.
Do we want to keep our coach, or do we want to fire him?
I'm gonna leave it as simple as Anjin, man. I love the way he kind of gets the guys going in terms of attacking more. I love kind of our offensive play, especially with James Madison in the middle, finding Son, finding Dom, all that kind of situation. Mm-hmm. So I like putting the ball in the back of the net. So that's I'm in.
He had to deal with so many injuries this year, and I think if you look at the fact of changing coaches every 2 years, if it doesn't work with Jose Mourinho, if it doesn't work with Antonio Conte, is it not working with Ange Postecoglou? Is the real question, is it not working at the higher levels of the club, is probably the more apt question to ask.
Yeah, no doubt.
I agree.
The fans are probably listening to this right now. What the heck are these guys talking about?
Solid 5 minutes.
But we'll break. We might come back, talk more Tottenham Hotspur. We might not, but last segment right around the corner. This is Parker Fox in for Barreiro.
It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause. And MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
Arrow on the fan. Last segment coming to you live with the fan. Parker Fox here. You can find me on the X machine at Parker Fox24. Brett, I think we had a couple talkbacks, a couple texts at least.
A couple texts in regards to the soccer talk. One, you got nominated for a PST for saying, quote, I played college basketball for 8 years and it went by really fast. So
there we go.
Welcome to the tournament.
I've been waiting to hopefully maybe at least get nominated, maybe make it a couple rounds in that tournament.
Yeah, make a run. Yeah, exactly. A handful of positive text. 952 guy, love the soccer talk. Fan needs more soccer. Thank you. 763 guy says, love the Spurs talk. Should be a regular topic and gin, which is great. Someone said, Spurs talk, the best 5 minutes in fan history.
Wow.
Your thoughts? That's high praise.
That is high praise. We'll take that.
And finally, 651 guy says, as an Arsenal supporter and gin, just know that I hate you. So yes,
all of the guys in this room have that same energy towards that Arsenal fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think growing up, listen to the fan, you never really would think they would, talk soccer. So that was fun. But I
think that's about as much leash as we got, though.
That's about as much leash, but we'll take what we can get.
Yep.
We will definitely take what we can get. Brett, want to thank you.
How about that? 3 hours?
3 hours,
down
man.
The drain.
3 hours. I was telling Andy, it's a lot different than just coming in here for 30 minutes. The nerves were flowing early. I was biting the nails, but I settled in, and that's thanks to you, thanks to my guests like Andy, thanks to Jim Peterson, thanks to Corey Provis, Don Plitzwhite, J.W. Person. This has been truly a dream come true, being on the fan and being able to do this. So thank you guys for listening. It's been Parker Fox on the fan.
It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.